Hear these words from the prophet Isaiah. Shout loudly, don't hold back. Raise your voice like a trumpet. Announce to my people their crime, to the house of Jacob their sins. They seek me day after day, desiring knowledge of my ways, like a nation that acted righteously, that didn't abandon their God. They ask me for righteous judgments, wanting to be close to God. Isn't this the fast I choose? Releasing wicked restraints, untying the ropes of a yoke, setting free the mistreated, and breaking every yoke? Isn't it sharing your bread with the hungry and bringing the homeless poor into your house? Covering the naked when you see them and not hiding from your own family? Then your light will break out like the dawn, and you will be healed quickly. Your own righteousness will walk before you, and the Lord's glory will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and God will say, I'm here. If you remove the yoke from among you, the finger pointing, the wicked speech, if you open your heart to the hungry and provide abundantly for those who are afflicted, your light will shine in the darkness, and your gloom will be like the noon. The Lord will guide you continually and provide for you, even in parched places. He will rescue your bones. You will be like a watered garden, like a spring of water that won't run dry. They will rebuild ancient ruins on your account. The foundations of generations past you will restore. You will be called mender of broken walls, restorer of livable streets.
So this is Ash Wednesday. I bet you figured that out. This is Ash Wednesday, and on this day, Christians all around the world enter into the season of Lent. It's a time for Christians to observe rituals and traditions focused on deeper awareness, reflection, and prayer. For some of you, this may be your first real observance of Ash Wednesday. That's very possible. Maybe you've heard about it, you've heard the term Ash Wednesday, but you've never really thought about it. And this will be the first time you've received ashes for a number of you. And if this isn't the first time you've received ashes, do you remember the first time? Do you remember the first Ash Wednesday when you received ashes on your forehead? May have been attached to a service similar to this, and maybe not. I remember more than 20 years ago as a layperson coming to my very first Ash Wednesday service here at Manchester. I was in my late 30s, layperson, and I was at the very beginning of my faith journey, and I was in my very first disciple Bible study class, which is a 34-week intense class. And we came as a class to this service. Now, what I find interesting is that Pastor Phil was also in that disciple class. You got to be careful of disciple Bible study. My faith had been awakened within disciple Bible study. It wasn't something I was expecting, but I was absolutely delighted about it and still didn't quite trust that it was going to stick. And I was absolutely hungry to learn. And the Ash Wednesday service that we went to was set up, similarly to this and probably differently. The music would have been different. The liturgy might have been a little different. But the imposition of the ashes, the cross on the forehead, that was the same. And I was absolutely intrigued. I'd never had that done before. Had no idea what it stood for. When the time came in the service to receive ashes, I got in line and I was anticipating, and I don't know what I thought it was going to be like baptism or like receiving communion or like a blessing. I mean, I just didn't know what it would be like. And I got to the front and I held back my hair and I felt the sign of the cross being made on my forehead, and I heard the pastor say these words, remember, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. What? What? Wait a minute, I'm what? Those can be really challenging words to hear the first time you hear them, especially if this is all kind of new to you. And it is for some of us, I'm sure it is. I just spent weeks and weeks and weeks in this disciple class, just gradually coming to fully trust and gradually becoming convinced this was all real and that I really am a child of God, wholly beloved, even me. And my faith was so new that I kind of held on to it with a white knuckle grip. Maybe some of you have been through that. And now the pastor's calling me dust. The equivalent of the black soot he just smudged on my forehead, and I did not understand. And truly, I remember this. My heart sank. I was hurt and perplexed and confused. Remember, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. These words are first spoken by God to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden after they've eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And I'm telling you what, God is angry. God is angry. Remember, he says to them, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Ooh, ouch. Dust to dust, ashes to ashes. Dust and ashes have no value. I mean, you think about your home. Right? Dust and ashes are worse than a nuisance, aren't they? They're worthless and dirty and to be avoided. Dust and ashes, yuck. Why in the world do we come together on this night to have ashes smeared on our foreheads and be referred to as dust? Well, first we gather to remember who we are. And we also gather to remember who God is and what God has done for us through Jesus Christ. We gather to remember that we are all broken, we're all flawed, we make mistakes, and we need to ask for forgiveness. And we gather to remember that we are loved. We are all loved. God has given us all a way out of our ashes to ashes and dust to dust legacy. The way out is Jesus. The way out is the cross. God's way of placing a sign of infinite value upon ashes and dust. And we are all ashes and dust. And we are all beloved children of God. And all means all. We cross a threshold this day. We are called to step intentionally into that which is broken, that which is torn, a space in which many are vulnerable, and others of us, God willing, may learn to be vulnerable again. We slow our pace during these 40 days because the landscape of Lent will take us through the wilderness of our own hearts and souls. We must walk carefully. We must think deeply. We must allow our hearts to be broken open. We must be willing to lay bare that is hidden, buried, or repressed. Isn't this the fast I choose? Releasing wicked restraints, untying the ropes of a yoke, setting free the mistreated and the breaking of every yoke? Isn't sharing your bread with the hungry and bringing the homeless poor into your house, covering the naked when you see them and not hiding from your own family? Then your light will break out like the dawn and you will be healed quickly. Your own righteousness will walk before you, and the Lord's glory will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and God will say, I'm here. If you remove the yoke from among you, the finger pointing, the wicked speech. If you open your heart to the hungry and provide abundantly for those who are afflicted, your light will shine in the darkness, and your gloom will be like the noon. We start in ashes. And with God's help, may we end in a garden teeming with new life and impossible possibility. Amen.